Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm a physician, a pediatric neurologist. I work in Detroit, Michigan. I'm here for my third ziyarat. I first came here about 48 years ago. My name is Iqbal Allah Rakhia. And I live in Detroit. I've been there for more than 30 years. I'm originally from Tanzania. I'm very happy to be here, and it's been a wonderful experience so far. We have been here a few days. We started with Najaf, and then we came here, and it has been a very emotional experience. My first visit was at the age of 12 years. It was 1968. I'm 59 years old now. It was a very emotional experience. My parents, we started with Hajj, and we did all the ziyarah of the 14 Masumin alayhi salam. Was wonderful for me. It left a lasting impression on my mind. I think it helped me understand my faith much better than I would have had if I had not come here. The visit coincided with Ashura. We were not going to stay here for Ashura, but my mother got sick in Jeddah just as we were about to leave for Damascus at that time. And it was Allah's will, because her being sick for 2-3 days postponed our trip, so we ended up staying for Ashura in Karbala. We had stayed in a guest house. I don't remember where it was, but it wasn't too far from the Haram. Karbala was very different at that time. But in many ways it was similar. The spiritual experience was similar. The city was not as much developed. There were fewer people at the time. It was less crowded, but the experience was just as good. We didn't come with a group as many people do these days. We had come individually, both my parents and with my brother, who was younger than me. He was only 9 years old. And each experience we had left a lasting impression in my head. It's something you don't forget. It gets hardwired into your brain, and I think it helped me be a better Shia Muslim, a follower of the Ahl Bayt through my life. And I would highly recommend that you come here first as a child, so that it leaves a long, and you can always keep coming back. I think it gives a better impression, especially when you're in your formative years. Being here, it helps you understand your faith a lot better than it would as if you came here when you're much older. My second visit happened again with my parents. I was older, I was working, but my parents said, "We will take you there again." And this time they not only brought me and my wife, but they brought our three children. We had 3 children at the time. My youngest was 2.5 years old. Unfortunately, he doesn't remember much about the trip, but the older two remember the trip. And again, this time we did not do the Hajj Tamattu, but we did Hajj Umrah, and we joined a group from Tanzania. And we did all the ziyarah of 14 Masumin after doing Hajj of Umrah. We were able to go to Damascus as well, and it was a very nice experience. So this time I came not as a child but as a grown-up, and this was about 18 years ago. And again, I remember that in clear detail. With the spiritual experience is a bit more deeper now, as you come for subsequent trips, as you are grown up, you understand things to a greater depth. Unfortunately, this time I came with a group where the spiritual experience is much higher. And I think I've been here only for 3 days, but I feel I've been here for a week. So the spiritual experience is much higher. Clearly, when we came here 18 years ago, there was less freedom to worship. We didn't feel as free as we feel now. All the mu'mineen are more free now. There's more freedom of movement. People are better able to express themselves. There is, besides the du'as and the ziyarat of Ashura and hadith kisa, and people are in the haram for longer periods of time. They express themselves very well. So it's a much more spiritual experience. I have to get 7 or 8 hours of sleep, otherwise I'm very crabby or cranky and tired, and I'm not able to function very well. Even as a physician, I get woken up at night and often get phone calls. I'm on call, most of the time. But I come here, at night I barely sleep 3 or 4 hours. I jump out of my bed, I get to the haram before the subuh prayers. Most of the time I'm able to get there for Salatul Layl. And I don't feel tired. I just take a cup of coffee when I get back to the hotel, and then we are ready to go again. Our group keeps us very busy. Like today we went to locations within Karbala to look at, for example, Tille Zainabiya, the 2 locations where Hazrat Abbas lost his 2 arms. We went to where Ali Asghar alayhi salam got martyred. We visited so many places today, just in the neighborhood. I learned for the first time that at the end of times, the whole Karbala will be lifted in total, to the heavens, and I did not know that before. It's true that the other places of rest for our different Masumeen will be lifted up to heaven as well, but I was informed, for the first time that the whole of Karbala in the environment, from the Alqama and will be lifted despite that they are, it's regarded as a holy place, very close to Allah. Many of those are incurable. We just help them along. We know that there is a limit to our abilities. Allah has given us some medicines and therapies which we can help people along. But many conditions I treat have no cures. It's only Allah can cure those conditions if He wishes. Clearly praying for those people or having them come here can be a tremendous healing experience. I think that's very important. Many illnesses run their course. All we do is hold their hand and maybe relieve some of their symptoms, but we cannot cure many conditions. Even now, with all the advances in medicine, there are conditions we cannot cure, we cannot treat. I do think it's a reality. From time to time you meet patients and you meet people who have been sick, and they say that like there's an invisible superior being who helped them out. As Shia we believe that with the tawassul of our Masumeen, that it makes it even easier for us to be healed. Being around a place and you read stories, but you also meet people from, very often being a physician, I meet people who are not well, who don't know how to explain how they got better, and then there are people who you give them the best medicine and they just go down the hill and they get sicker and sicker and nothing helps them. So ultimately it's Allah who decides who will live, how long. It's not within us. We can try our best with the tools He has given us, but ultimately it's Him who makes people. I agree, it's not that I think so, but it's many illnesses are mental. It's in the mind. I'm glad you raised that issue. A lot of, if you look at 2 people who are sick, there's one person who is sick who gives up, and then there's another person who is sick in the same degree as the first person but has hope. He looks to someone, some supreme being to help him. Really the difference between them is that they start out the same. The person who does not have any hope does much worse, and is not going to do as well as a person who feels like he is going to get better. In the Western analogy, the first person thinks of the glass as being half empty, the other one thinks of the glass being half full and is optimistic. and many other holy entities who are associated with them. We know that, for example, famous ashab Salman Farsi, or there are people in Karbala who were Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. We call him Babul Hawaij, and you read accounts of people who were helped by just mentioning his name and getting healed. And so it's very important to come here, to go to the other places where Imam are resting, and you can go to any one of them. Clearly, with the sacrifice Imam Hussein and his family and his ashab and his children and his family and the women in his family gave, is a supreme sacrifice. It gives them a special status in the eyes of Allah. We read accounts of how prophets as early as Adam and Nuh, and they all came to know about this way before the event happened in Karbala. It was a supreme sacrifice. That the events of Karbala have helped people around them. For example, we were in Najaf, and we saw a school which currently has about 500 children. Unfortunately, I forgot the name of the school, but it was built and donated, and it's run by a Khoja from East Africa, and just an example of how that being around such ideals, being around, hearing people, hearing our Imam and his ashab and his family doing all these selfless acts to save us, to save the religion, inspires people to do so much. It's around the world. If you look at how people help orphanages and widows, and help do medical camps, and help out refugees and people who have been afflicted by disasters around the world. If you look at the last 30 or 40 years and even longer, you find people doing selfless acts of charity to help others, not only by donating money, by donating their time, and sometimes just having goodwill from you can be very helpful. Your spiritual batteries get recharged, and they actually get recharged to a higher level, because every time you come, you understand more. When you come once, you understand, but your level of understanding goes to a higher level. You come the next time, it goes to a higher level, and so I would recommend to people to come often if they can. Unfortunately, in my case, I had to wait so long between the 3 visits to come. I hope, inshallah, I pray that I can come more often. Karbala is a unique place. It's when we are back home throughout the world, in Muharram and other times, we all recite the difficulties of Imam Hussein and his family, but there's nothing like coming here, even if it's not Muharram, even if it's not a major commemoration like 15th of Shaban or 13th of Rajab or Ashura or Arba'in. It's still a very good experience. It's you visit this place, you commemorate different events in Karbala. You learn about it's not just the events, but why all this happened. What was the logic behind Karbala? You understand it more when you come here, and you get connected to a closer degree to all the events and all the philosophy of Karbala, and how it helped people. I'm reminded of a story I read a very long time ago. There was an editor in India. He was a Parsi. They worshipped the fire. His name was Karanjia, and he was an editor of a newspaper. And he happened to come to Najaf on 13th of Rajab, and he went back becoming a Shia. He just experienced, he had come for some assignment, And he wrote about it, and I still remember it. I was a child when I read it. I forget the name of his newspaper, but his name was Karanjia. He came to Najaf at the right moment. It's like somebody had pulled him. And he had no intention whatsoever. He had just come to cover, and he went home a believer. Oh, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.